My name is Filip and I'm the Senior Games Developer for Osprey Games, and today I'm going to do a solo playthrough of Imperium Classics. It's not going to be a comprehensive explanation of how the game works, but I will be talking you through as I play the game. I hope you enjoy. On progress from the supply and put it on any card in the market, and that'll make that more valuable to other players, including the bot. Also, importantly, it stops cards from being exiled. So if there's a card I want to protect in some way, then I might want to do that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on... I'm going to put them on the Onions because the useful card, tributaries are very powerful cards in general. That does make it more valuable for the bot to take, but I'm worried about them exiling it. And I'm hoping that they're not going to be able to take tributaries early on. Once I've done that, I get to discard as many cards as I want, and then I'll draw back up to 5. And as Romans, I want to become an empire as quickly as possible, generally. Not always, but generally. So I'm actually just going to discard all of these cards in order to draw a new hand of 5. That's not always going to, depending on what cards you have in hand, you might not want to do that. But I'm going to do that now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's my hand for next turn. I return these to my state card, and it's now the bot turn. Now we'll talk through the bot cards here, because what will happen is that the bot's going to play these cards, but it's only going to play. It's going to play either 4 or 5 of them. The way I determine that is I roll this die, I place it, and then that card is basically set aside. You can just leave it there for convenience, but it's not going to play this card. And then we simply go through each card in turn, we flip it over, and what happens is that with each of these cards, there's going to be a table which you can, I don't think you'll be able to catch the full details here, but it's going to tell you, okay, they're in a barbarian state, and you're simply going to go find the right action it takes depending on the symbols or name of the card. And it's not, the actual text on the card is not going to be important here. Now, the first card is an unrest. It simply returns that to the unrest pile. And cards in the unrest pile can be from other players, and they function just as any other type of unrest, and just means at the end of the game you'll want to sort it back with those cards. So that was easy. Take the next one, Settlers. So I'm going to go down this list. It's not an attack card, it's not a fame card, it's not Glory Advance, but it does have the Barbarian flag, so it says it discards the top card of the bot deck, and then this card goes into history. So I'm just going to discard this card, put it aside, and then this goes into the bot's history, which, just like for mine, goes underneath its power card. And all that's done is accelerate the bot's way through its deck. We skip over this card, because that's the die roll I got. City of Sparta. And again, it's doing exactly the same thing. It's going to be discard the top card of the bot deck and put it into history. So again, that. And what this is doing is just to a little bit about that, I think this is emulating how the Greeks play, which is about a lot of cities and going through the deck really quickly over and over again. There are a lot about card draw. There, let's represent the different city-states. Right. So again, now it doesn't have barbarian flag, so we go on to the next one. So region. So the bot's going to gain 1 material, which I'm just going to put here. Then, if this card is played, and I'm just going to put that in front of here, all the bot's played cards. And as you can see, I'm a little bit tight for space because I'm doing this at home. But hopefully we'll be able to fit everything in. And the only thing, usually when you play a region, for a player that has some sort of effect, but for the bot that's just going to stay in play and that's going to be affected by the cards. Finally, the bot exiles a card from the market, and when it does that, it simply finds the leftmost card that it's able to exile, which is simply any card without a token on it, takes that, and that's going to go in the exile pile over here. I'm going to put it face down so it doesn't get confusing, and then we simply replace it. Cool. All right. Next, whatever die roll result this was, we put another progress token on the card above it. This slides down there, and then we simply fill the remaining 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3. And just like a player, when the bot is done, it has to shuffle its deck. But before it takes that, it'll take the top card of its progress deck and shuffle it in. And you can see, because it's already put some cards into its into history, it has a very small deck at the moment, which means it's going to be rushing through these cards, becoming an empire very quickly. Right, so it's back to my turn. In fact, before that happens, between every round, at the end of the round, which in the solo plays, always after the solo player's turn, we have a Solstice Phase. And any cards in play that have a Solstice effect, which simply say Solstice, have to be resolved, unless they say may. So for example, I have the City of Rome. I now may discard a card from hand in order to either gain population or materials or draw a card. And I'm looking at my hand and I have 2 unrest. And I'm probably not going to want to do anything with both unrest. That's quite resource intense. So I decide I'm going to discard that card. And now I'm looking at what do I want. And I'm tempted to draw a card because I want to accelerate my gameplay, but I'm looking at what I might want to be doing next turn. Now if I could conquer to get the Ionians, which will let me get rid of this unrest. That's probably what I want to be doing. So I'm keeping that in mind. That'll make sure I want to be getting regions out into play, and I'll tell you why in a second. But prosperity isn't very useful on its own at the moment, so I'm probably looking for a third action. So I think I'm going to use the City of Rome to draw a card. So these are in my hand for now. I shuffle my deck, and I take the top card of my nation deck, goes into my discard pile. That's another region that's been added. And then I shuffle this in. And apologies if you dislike how I shuffle. Right, draw that card, Elders. Right. So, screwed up. I made a mistake, but I'm not going to worry too much about that right now. Okay, so, I shouldn't say a rules mistake, tactical mistake. There we go. So, I'm going to play Conquer, as I explained, in order to get the Ionians. Now, here I have a choice. I could spend 2 population to acquire it, or 3 to break through for it. If I break through, then I'm going to avoid taking that unrest there. However, since I only have 2, I'd have to supplement with my progress, because this can be a wild resource. And that's quite expensive, especially considering that, to say, the mistake I made earlier is that I discarded the unrest that I didn't want to use, but I wanted to use this card in order to return to unrest. So what I might do now is I'm going to spend 2 in order to acquire the card. Because it has tokens on it, I get that token. Just going to drop that on the floor. And now I do have 2 unrest in hand. There's still 1 in my deck, but I'm going to live with that. And I simply, that goes into my discard pile, and I spent 1 action. Next thing is Ionians. You can see they're a free play, so they don't take 1 of my actions. I get to return 2 of these from my hand or discard pile. Putting them there. And then this card goes into my history, so it's a one-time thing, but it's still going to be worth 3 points at the end of the game. So I'm very happy with that. I should have also immediately replaced this, of course, with the kin. Right, I still have 2 actions left. Ooh, there's some good options here. Okay, I think one thing I'm mindful of when I'm playing against the Greeks is that they have a very high pace, and I want to make sure I'm going to be able to keep up with that. And one way I might be able to do that is by using cities, which is how the Greeks, if they were a player, would be managing their high pace because they have so many cities. So I'm going to use the Elders to gain the city. Now, I don't want to be taking up too much unrest because it clogs up my deck and they're negative points. So what I might do is I'm going to use the Elder's Breakthrough effect to break through for this city. However, instead of having a cost, it just gives a benefit to all of the players. So the bot gains progress, which I think I can live with right now. That goes into my discard pile. That's my second action done. And then this gets replaced with another city. There's a lot of cities in the game. I have one action left. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this city out. So it's done. And I have 2 cities each round. That's going to give me a lot of firepower. I'm going to discard Prosperity. But I'm thinking now, the Romans are a lot about regions. And through regions, they can gain glory. So I'm thinking I should start getting on that. Because I don't want to leave that too late. So I'm going to leave this card in hand. Draw 4 more. So I go up to my hand size of 5. And then finally, I always have to place another one of these down. Again, I think that they can offer really good passive ability, so I'm really tempted to make sure that that doesn't get removed or exiled by the bot. That's my turn done, so we return to the bot player. We roll a die, 2, so that card's not going to be resolved, so we go through the other cards. So, it's a region. When the bot plays a region, they get another material, and then this gets into play. And because, for the bot, it doesn't matter what these cards do, I'm just going to stack them like this. This card doesn't resolve. Oh, sorry, I almost forgot. When you do that, exile a card. Moves this card from play. Okay. Now, because this is a region, we don't have an unrest card underneath it, and I can just go there. All right, let's reveal the third card. Unrest simply gets returned, like that. Advance. Now, if you actually look down here, again, I'm not sure how well you can see. It is instead of having a symbol, it simply names the card advance. That means that's going to be action resolve. If able, it spends 1 to break through for a civilized card. All right, so it is able to, so it's going to do that. Now, if there were multiple of these grey cards out in the market, it would be choosing whichever gave it the most points. Here, it's very simple. It's going to choose this one. And because it has tokens on it, it gains those tokens. And because it's breakthrough, it doesn't gain the unrest. And that simply goes on top of the bot deck like that. It's going to play it next round. This card is discarded. If on the table it says if able breakthrough for a civilized card, otherwise it will acquire a uncivilized card. But that situation doesn't occur, so we skip that part and we reveal that. Cool. Greek Mercenaries. So the top here is an attack card. Discard the top 2 cards in the bot deck. So we do that. Simply discarded. Again, this is a pacing thing. It might not look like it's a good thing for the bot, but it is helping them go through their deck quicker. They steal 2 materials from me, which is not particularly nice. And then it says you gain 1 population in bold. And whenever anything in one of these bot tables is in bold, it affects me as the player. So I gain 1 population, which is maybe not an awful trade-off for me right now. That gets discarded. That's not the discard pile, that's the discard pile. Again, because this token's here, we add 1 progress to that card. This shuffles down, and then once again, we refill. And as you can see, the bot deck's already through, so another card gets added from there. Luckily, it was an unrest. And we shuffle this through. 1, 2, 3. There we go. All right. Again, Solstice. And now I have 2 cities. They have exactly the same effect. Just one is unique, and it starts in my deck rather than anywhere else. All right. Both of them require a discarding card. Now, the glory card I'm going to come to a little bit later when I actually play, but right now it's not particularly useful to me because I need to have regions in play. So I'm going to discard that, and I'm looking at my resource. I have enough cards that I want to play this turn, So I think I'm just going to gain a resource for that, which is going to be a material. Now I could discard another card of city. However, as I'm going to show in a second, I sort of want to get this unrest out of circulation. So I'm thinking of garrisoning it. So I'm going to leave that in my hand. I'm not going to use my second city, and that's because it says you may, so it's optional. All right, I'm going to have a very simple turn. I'm going to be playing my 3 regions that I have in hand. I'm going to start with Dalmatia. It gives me 1 population just for playing. And I may garrison a card. And what that means, I play a card underneath it. That's now basically, for all intents and purposes, out of play. And it can't be affected by anything else, really. But it'll still score me points at the end of the game. But it means I get to take cards out of circulation in my deck. And this unrest isn't doing me any good. So I'm happy to get that out of the way. Now, before the end of the game, I probably want to do something about that. But there's a lot of game left, so I think I can leave it for now. I'm going to play down the forest. The forest doesn't gain me any resources in and of itself, but it has these region types here, which is useful for gaining resources from other cards. It says exile a card from market, and that's non-optional, so I have to do that. Again, I can't do it to anything with tokens, so I'm looking around. I know that I have the Elder, so I'm pretty good at getting green cards. But I think with 2 cities, I have all the ones I need for what I'm looking to do. So I can exile that card and reveal a new one and see if there's something I like more. Okay, interesting. And my final card is Sacred Pass. And Sacred Pass has an exhaust ability, which I can use at any point in my turn by putting one of these tokens on it. And I will use it, and I can look at the top card of my nation deck. Bread and Circuses. I will discuss that card when it comes up, but it's a really useful card, so I'm looking forward to getting that. I have the option of swapping a card from my hand with that card if I abandon the Sacred Pass, but I don't have any cards in hand, so I'm going to leave it there. And that's 3 actions spent. So end my turn, I simply drop 1, 2, and then the card I just looked at goes there, and the exhaust goes there. Oh, and finally, I need to add 1 more progress to the market. I'm looking at what I might want. I'm already aware that the tributary card there has too many tokens on praise, making it, if I don't get it first, that's going to be very valuable for the bot. So I'm looking at the ability on the woodland. That might be pretty good. And I don't think the Greeks are too interested in regions. That might be a nice bonus. If I get that woodland, I'll also get that progress. Maybe a bit of gamble, but there we are. All right, put my hand aside, back to the bot player. And as always, roll the die. There. And then we resolve them. Glory. So this is another one in the bot table that's named. And it asks that if it's able to, it's going to abandon 3 regions. Now, the bot only has 2 regions, so it's not able to. So instead, the affected list is breakthrough for a civilized card, which is simply going to be this card. Because it's breakthrough, it doesn't get the unrest. It's on top of the deck. And this card is resolved. Reveal. New card. Exports. Next card, Conquer. So we go down, we get to Barbarian, discard the top card of the bot deck, which is the card I just gained. And this card goes to history. So it's, again, it's slimming out its deck. Third card is the Cataphract that's bought early in the game. So the attack card. So it's again going to discard 2 cards from the bot deck. See, it's racing through its deck. It's going to steal 2 more of my materials, which is going to make it very hard for me to advance. But I do gain 1 population. And that card is discarded. Skip this card. And finally, it's another region. So regions, again, the bot will gain 1 material. I'm just going to switch these 5. into a5. And then that's going to go into play, and it's going to exile a card, which is going to be these hills. Which, because it's a green card, will go there. And that's a very exciting card. And that's in the bot turn, so I'll add one there, because that's where the die is. This shuffles along, and again, the deck's empty, so we take the top card. And you can see that the top card of the bot's Dynasty deck, I forgot that name earlier, is a succession card, which means it's very soon we're going to become an empire. I have a few cards to go, so it's clearly outpacing me in that front. However, the Greeks are fast, so that's not unsurprising that they're going to get there first. Some nations take a very long time. Some nations are very quick. Some nations start as an empire, the Atlanteans, for example, and some, like the Vikings, never become an empire. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. That goes there. And once again, we get to the Solstice Phase. So I'm looking at my hand of cards. And I'm thinking, which of these cards am I going to want to play this round? Glory I probably do want to play, because I want to be getting fame. So I'm going to not want to discard that. Bread and Circuses I do, because it's a really good way of playing Unrest. And then I've just seen the Diplomacy card out there, which is really, it's great because it lets me gain tributaries, which are really powerful. So I'm really tempted to get that, which I'll need Elders for. Which means I'm not going to be using these two cards this turn, and I want to be making sure I'm cycling through. So I'm going to be discarding these two cards. And I'm looking at my resource pool, which is lacking in materials because the Greeks keep stealing them. So I think I'm probably just going to add that up, because I'm looking at the card I'm going to buy later, Diplomacy, and seeing that it costs materials. So I'm going to add this too. Right. Solstice Phase over. It's now my turn. The first thing I'm going to do is going to play my Glory card. Now, this is the way most players are going to be able to get Fame cards. And what I do is, all Glory cards, whichever deck is in, will force you to abandon 3 regions. When you abandon a region, you have to choose a region in play and discard it, and if it's garrisoning a card, it's also discarded. So all these 4 cards go into my discard pile. Then I'll get to look at the top 2 cards of the Fame deck, and I'm going to get to choose one of those to take and put the other one back. However, because I'm the Romans, I have a passive ability that whenever I look at any number of cards from the Fame deck, I get to look at an additional one, and just for doing so, I'll be able to gain a progress. So I look at the top 3 cards of the Fame deck and see what I have to work with. So there's 2 copies of Triumphant, but as they were both on top, I wouldn't have had a choice if I wasn't the Romans. The Triumphant card is simply 11 points, so it's huge, but it can't be played or garrisoned. The Marvelous card is slightly less points, but it's a free play card that lets me draw the top card of my deck and either get rid of it or put it into my history. So it's a really good pacing card. It doesn't get me more cards into hand to play, but it lets me cycle through my deck quicker and put cards that I don't want into my history to get out altogether. And there's only 2 points less. That seems like a really strong card. So I'm going to take this card, and these 2 go back in the order of my choice on the top of this deck, and I gain a progress. Right, so I've taken my first action. So I have 2 actions left and 4 cards in hand. 3 cards in hand because the Glory card was also played. Now I'm going to play my new Marvelous card because it's a free play, so it doesn't actually affect my plan. So I'm going to draw the top card of my deck, and I either discard it or return to the top of my deck. Put it in my history. Prosperity. I'm pretty torn because this is a pretty useful card, but it's only relevant if I have lots of regions out. And I'm tempted to go for a strategy where I keep on removing my region in order to gain glory. So this might be controversial if David and Nigel are watching this. They might think I'm being very silly, but I'm going to put this into my history, and I'm just going to try and rush Fane this game. That's my plan. We'll see if it bears out. I didn't take an action, so I have 2 more actions to go. Play Bread and Circuses. This is another pin card, so it's going to stay in play, and every... what's going to do is that every solstice I'm going to have to discard a card, but I get to return like up to 2 unrest cards. So it really means that my pacing is going to let me ignore taking unrest cards, because I'm going to be able to just get rid of them relatively cheaply. So it's a valuable card, but with 3 discard effects in my solstice, I'm going to need to think really hard about which cards I'm keeping in hand. As my final action, I'm going to play Elders, which lets me acquire or break through for a green card. I'm going to take Diplomacy because I've just gotten the Bread and Circuses card. I'm not going to worry about taking that unrest. So I'm going to take both those. This gets discarded. This gets replaced. It's a region, so it doesn't get an unrest. And I've now spent my 3 actions. And I really want to use this unrest to get that tributary card before, you know, the bot potentially takes it. So I'm going to keep that in hand, discard the unrest, knowing that's going to come back before long anyways, so I can get rid of it. And draw up to 5. 1. This goes into my discard, and then I shuffle this through. I have my hand of 5. I'm going to add a token somewhere. Now I know I'm going to take this card next time, if it's still around. So I could gamble and just put another token in there. That makes it relatively high stakes. So each one of these is worth a point in the game. So I want to be very careful that I'm not giving the bot too many points. But they haven't been taking any tributary cards so far, so I think with only 1 turn to go, I'm just going to gamble on that. That's me done. You draw, roll the die for the bot. 6. Now that's just set aside, as that means it has 2 implications. First, it's going to play all 5 of its cards, and it's not going to be adding a token to the market. So we simply resolve all 5 cards. Unrest goes back to the deck. Greek Mercenaries, by now, I'm getting very familiar. It's going to force it to discard 2 cards. It's going to steal my 2 materials I've tried to keep hold of, but they've disappeared. And give me a population. And that's discarded. Reveal the next card. Advance. Again, this is one that's specific for its text. It's going to spend one of these materials to break through for this. And because it's breaking through, it doesn't take the unrest underneath it. So it's deck. We replace it. Corruption. How delightful. Discarded. The 4th card here is Moneylenders. So we go down, and this actually gets all the way down to Other. So it says, if able, spend 2 to break through for a region. Now it is able because you can always spend Progress. So spend those 2 tokens, break through to the region. Now there are 2 regions in play, so you can choose the one that's most valuable. And the Woodland, because it has a Progress on it, is worth 1 point, whereas Steppe is only worth 0. So we'll take this card, gain that at the top of the deck, reveal a new region card. Let's get discarded. Yes. And then finally, Cataphract. It's going to discard the 2 cards of the bot deck. It's going to try and steal 2 of my materials, but I don't have any to steal. But because it can do part of the action, it's going to do as much as it can. And it still gains me population. So that's nice. You've stolen too much, so you can't steal anymore. There we go. The bot turn is once again done. It doesn't add token because it rolled a 6. Now, because it has to reshuffle the deck, we'll take Olympic Games. It becomes an Empire. And now we'll start using the 2nd table here in the solo rulebook. So let me just shuffle these. One, two, three, four, 5. So, look at my hand of cards. And I have to discard a card for bread and circuses. That's not optional. So I have 5 cards, so I know I'm going to have to... I'm only going to be able to play 3 anyways. So what I might do is, because currently I don't have any unrest cards in hand, and I really want bread and circuses to fire if possible, so I might use one of my cities first to discard a card and see if I can draw into an unrest. So I'm going to discard, using City of Rome, discard Conquer to draw a card. That didn't work, and that may, in retrospect, been a bad decision, but hopefully you don't hold it against me. I might even do the same thing again. Even if it's a relatively long shot, it's helping me run through my deck, which gets me close to being Empire. So I'm going to do that again. I have some regrets about my decision, but at least that paid out. I'm very happy about that. So for bread and circus, I have to discard a card. I'm going to discard my forest. Then I may return unrest from my hand and from my discard pile. So I will return that and get it out of the way. Normally, to get rid of unrest, you either have to take an entire turn to get rid of all the unrest in your hand, or as an action, you can either spend 3 materials, or discard 2 cards, or pay one population to get rid of it. Otherwise, it will stay in your deck. Right, I've done all 3 of my Solstice effects now, so it's on to my turn. I have 3 cards. I'm going to spend my 3 actions, and here's where those the eagle eye of my spot is that I had in my hand the Conquer card, which lets me pay population, which I have a lot of, in order to gain a tributary. But instead, I've kept diplomacy, which forces me to spend materials, which I don't have, in order to gain a tributary. So that feels very silly of me, but I don't want to... I'm not going to undo my mistake, so I'm simply going to play as it is. I'm going to play diplomacy anyways. I don't have the 3 materials, but I can spend 3 progress, which is quite a dear price, quite a steep price, to break through for a tributary, sorry. But I do get those back, so, you know, I missed out on a windfall, perhaps, but I haven't made a huge catastrophic mistake. When I lose the game by 3 points, then I'll, you know, eat my words. I broke through, so I don't have to take the unrest. This is replaced. And then I have 2 more actions. I will play this card because it's a pin card and has a passive ability, so now my hand size is 6, which means I'm going to get to draw more cards each turn, which is great considering how many discard effects I have in my play already. And I'm simply going to play... I have 1 more action after that. I'm going to play a region, gaining 1 material. I can garrison a card. I'm thinking... in case it takes a little bit long for my glory card to show up, I'm going to just keep this out of my deck for now. But because my plan is to use glory to keep banning regions, and I know that I have more than 3, I'm just going to keep that out of the way for now to speed up my deck cycle. And my turn, I draw 5 cards from my... Well, you would draw 5 cards because I've increased my hand size. I draw 6. So I draw my entire rest of my deck. I add 1 token to the board. I'm liking the look of coinage. I'm a little bit away from becoming an empire. You can see it has this little crown symbol. That means it can only be played if you're an empire, which I'm not. But that both has an exhaustibility, lets me, which I'll basically be able to use every single turn to draw a card, and a Solstice ability to gain resources, materials that the Greeks keep stealing from me, although their behavior might have changed now that they've become an empire. But I am low on materials, so I think I'm going to put 1 there to hope to stop it being exiled. But at the same time, I'm at the risk of making more attractive to the bot. So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to end my turn there and go for the bot. again, roll a 6, so it's going to take all 5 actions. So revolve it. Glory. Now, we go on to glory in the Empire table and says, if able, abandon 3 regions to gain the top fame card. This it can actually do. So, because it has 3 regions, those are discarded, which is what abandon means. And it gains the top fame card, and when it gains a card, then it goes to the top of the deck. And that's it. The glory card is discarded. Draw the next card. Counterfract is an attack card, but now the ability is it just acquires any one card. And because it has 5 options, it's going to choose the one that's worth the most points. And that's currently 2 points plus 1 for the token. It doesn't take into account the rest, and it will gain those cards. So that token goes there, and it gains the card first, and then the unrest goes on top of the deck. The bot is pretty good at getting rid of unrest, so it's not too concerned about that. And I have to recall one of my pinned cards. And when I recall a card, it goes back into my hand. And that's not amazing. But I'm really keen. I don't want to recall any of my Solstice abilities because it means I'm going to miss them. So I'm just going to take these regions back, this card back into hand. And when you recall a pinned card, if it's garrison something, you also recall whatever's underneath it. So that card is done. Goes the next card. Oh, I've forgotten to replace here. And as you can see, this is another attack card. Because the Greeks are very mean like that. And it's going to do exactly the same thing again. So I'm going to take that highest value card, which here is Corruption with 2. Those 2 go on top there. Replace that card. Pharmacy. And then I have to recall another one of my cards, which is not a great time. And again, I'm keen on getting these, especially now that I have lots of cards in hand, because I've been recalling so many. I really don't want to be recalling these Solstice effect cards that can make advantage of those cards. So I'm going to take this card back up to hand, knowing that if it's the best thing to do, I might just play it again next turn. But that's costing me an action still, so it's still not great. Advance. Now, in the Empire column, Advance isn't specifically named, so it's just going to go on symbols, which is the top one here is the Barbarian. It discards the top card of the deck, and it puts this card into the history. So it discards that card, this card goes away forever. And then finally, Olympic Games. This one doesn't have any symbols at all on it, really, so it goes to other. So Able is going to spend 3 populations to acquire a tributary. Now, because it's acquire, we'll only do it from market and there's none available, so it goes to the next thing. Otherwise, it will spend 2 materials to acquire a civilized card, which there is, and it does have that, so it's going to spend those 2 and take those 2 cards. Now, it's just acquired a whole bunch of cards, so I'm hoping the unrest in its deck will slow it down, which would be nice, because it is currently outpacing me, which is not overly pleasant. That card's done. And we draw the next cards for the bot. Doesn't place a token because of that. He's on 6. And I do my Solstice effects. And I have a whole bunch of cards in hand. And I'm going to have to discard at least 1. And I'm thinking, what I'm really thinking now is I want to start my hitting that glory pretty hard. Now that there's a little bit of a lull in how fast the Greeks are playing, really want to be getting those big points and maybe close out the game before it can get rid of all those unrest and ramp up its speed again. So I'm keen on keeping the kin in order to, because it helps my overall speed. I'm going to keep Marvelous because that's free play. And I'm looking at, I'm even tempted to keep Glory, not because I will be able to play this turn, but so I can keep it for next turn and play it straight away. So I have 4 regions, and I'm going to keep these 3. So I have 3 cards worth of discards that I can do. and I'm going to discard the unrest for one of the cities in order to gain a material, I think. Then I'm going to trigger the bread and circus. I'll discard the elders, which lets me return unrest both from my hand and from my discards. That goes there. And finally, I'm going to discard the Sacred Pass in order to draw a card, purely just to speed up my engine. So I get another card from that. It's an unrest. That's an unpleasant surprise, but here we go. I draw a card. And I have a whole bunch of cards in play. All right, so I'm going to play my Tributary out again, so I have that increased hand size. It's one action down. Marvelous is a free play, so I look at the top card of my deck. I do something with it. Ooh, I'm looking at Conquer, and I'm seeing I'm hopefully not too far away from becoming an empire, and has a barbarian symbol on, so it's going to start being completely useless because I can't play one of those if my state card doesn't match. So I will put that away, and hopefully it will help me remember the mistake I made a couple of turns ago. And Marvelous is done. I have 2 cards left, and I'm simply going to play these 2 regions. They each get me a resource. Go. And you can see I've quite a lot of I'm gonna switch it for 5 now. Quite a lot of population that I'm using. However, when I get to an empire, resources are really useful for gaining. You have to pay resources to gain these development cards, which are really powerful and worth a lot of points. So I'm not too worried about having excess resource for now. Both these let me garrison a card, which I may just do. I'm going to garrison 1 card here, just if we just keep it out of my deck. Knowing that I'm quite soon going to put it back in my deck anyways, because I'm going to use Glory. I want to make sure that Glory fires next turn, so I'm actually just going to keep my region and my Glory in hand. And then I'm going to just draw 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's going to be me done after I place 1 progress in the market. I'm looking at, I've seen that the Greeks have started acquiring cards, in particular these grey cards, and grey cards tend to be the most points as well. So if I put a token on there, I'm probably just paying the Greeks free points. So maybe I'm looking somewhere else in the market. I'm looking at the coast. That's a region card that lets you draw a card. It's a pacing card. So maybe I'm thinking about that later. And the Greeks don't seem too interested. So I'll go with that. And roll the card. That's 3. Well, so unrest simply goes back to the pile. Now this is an empire card and a pin cards. First of all, the pin card, if it happens, just goes into history. Still 2 points for the bot, so that's not too bad. Skip this card, unrest, and another pin card, which we've just seen, would just go into history, assuring another 2 points. So, not a super dramatic turn from the Greeks, which is nice, and hopefully a testament of that their deck is slowed down a bit, but they got rid of both the unrest straight away. I don't need to roll that. They put a token on the 3 there, and they simply reveal more cards. Okay. So again, it's Solstice. Looking at my cards, the cards in my hand rather, and I don't have any unrest for my bread and circuses, but I'm still gonna have to discard for it, so that's not So I know that I want to be firing off glory next turn. Now, what I might do, actually, because I know I only have I've only one card in my discard and one card in my deck. And that's because I've tied up a whole bunch of my regions over here. And as soon as I play glory, it's going to fill up my deck again, which is going to make it take long to rotate. So what I might do is take advantage of the fact that my deck and discard pile are very slim in order to fire off my reshuffle as soon as possible. Now, that will be slowed down slightly by the fact I'm discarding cards that will be going into that reshuffle. But even so, I reckon that's a decent use of my time. So with both my cities, I'm going to discard one card from hand in order to draw a card. That's an unrest, which is helpful for with my bread and circuses. So I can keep that in hand, discard this card in order to draw with my other city, which gets me another card. Another prosperity, which a little while back I put one of them into my history. And many nations only have one, Romans have two. So as a Roman player, you could go lots and lots of regions out and use prosperity will let you gain advantage resource for every region you have in play. But that's not the strategy that I've been following so far. All right, so I've done my two cities. So I have to do bread and circus. I have to discard a card. I'm going to discard elders but I do get to get rid of this unrest, which is nice. All right. So I think as I've been saying for the last few minutes, I'm gonna go ahead and get me a fame card. So the way I'm going to do that is that first action I'm going to play region. I could garrison something, but I know I'm going to just abandon it, so not much point in that. Second, I'm going to play glory, so I have to abandon these three cards, including any garrisons they have. And then I get to look at the top two cards of the same deck, but because I'm the Romans, I get to look at the top three through my passive ability. And I look at them, and I have, again, Triumphant from last time, just a lot of points. I have Notorious, which is a very aggressive attack card, but doesn't score a lot of points unless you manage to get the other players to give them a lot of unrest, which is pretty tricky against the bot, but it would let me slow down their decks. That is very tempting. Or there's Awe-Inspiring, which is 7 points, but also increases my hand size. And the question is that worth, is the bonus pace there worth the 4 points? I'm going to go with, I think that's going to be worth it. That's a really valuable pacing card. I am struggling a little bit of pace against the Greeks. I'm going to take that. I'm going to hope I'm going to be able to get Triumphant later. So those go back in the deck. Because I'm the Romans, I get progress. And there goes my discard. It's my second action. I have one action left. And I'm going to play Awe-Inspiring. So I have that. I'm now up to hand size of 7, which is going to help me a lot. And I'm just going to check both these cards away in order to speed up my deck process again. And I draw up to my hand. So I draw 3 cards. I have 4 more cards to draw. So I get Julius Caesar. And now I've become an empire. That means every time I cycle through my deck now, I'll have access to be able to buy these development cards, and I now can use any cards with blue flags there, which currently were before then unavailable to me. So I draw 4 more cards. I have to place a token down somewhere. At this stage, I'm not too worried. I'm really tempted by education, but I'm really worried the bot's going to get there before me. So I might just put one card on the region over here and leave it at that. I'm not going to stress too much about it until in a couple of minutes I'll be very upset about my choice. So 4 goes there, and ball player goes. An attack card, as I mentioned, is now switched to taking to acquiring a card, which is going to be location, as just mentioned. So I'm glad I didn't put the token there. Gains these 2 cards. I have to recall one of my cards, and it strikes me that you might have seen that the Burn Circus hasn't actually fired off that many times. It has a few times, so I'm not unhappy about it, but I'm not able to remove it myself, and it's forced me to discard a card every solstice, which is less than an issue. But I might get that out of circulation now, and then maybe see if I can get it out of, put into history, maybe through Marvelous firing off, or just discarding it, or see if I play it back again. Now, as you can see, this card is now needs replacing, but this deck is empty. So now we just draw from the main deck, which means we don't know what type of card it might be. This ends up being a great card anyways. There we go. And then this card is discarded. Next up, Fame card. So the bot discards the top 2 cards of its deck, which are the cards it just got. It gains 2 progress, so it can swap. So it now has 7 progress. And this card goes into history, so now out of the way. That's 11 points from the bot. That makes me not particularly happy, but there we go. City of Athens. Its top symbol on the table is that it's a pin, so it just goes into history, slimming down the deck. We skip this card, and a region. It's going to discard the top card of the bot deck, and it's going to play that card, and it's going to exile a card, and leftmost that doesn't have a token, which is the invasion. And you can see throughout the game we've been putting cards in the exile pile that they're completely out of play. There are some cards that will let you interact with that in certain decks, but mostly that just means we cycle through the market. Right. Put 1 token here. This shuffles down, and then again the bot deck is empty, and now it's going to start taking its development cards, and it's going to take it'll take the most valuable ones first. So add that to the deck, shuffle it through, and it's time for the Romans after I've dealt out these cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so it's Solstice before we do anything else. So I don't have bread and circuses anymore. I just have my 2 cities, and I can. I know that I can discard my advance card quite happily because I can't play it because it has the barbarian symbol. So I'm definitely going to discard that card. And now I'm going to start looking at a little bit what cards here that I might want to be getting, because these each have I'll hold one up closer. You can see at the bottom of the effect it has a development cost. So I might be looking at those costs. I'm also thinking we're getting closer to the end game, and I know that I score points just on my power card based on the population I have. So maybe I'm also paying attention to. Maybe I'm thinking I'll get cards that don't use up too much population. Okay. So I'm looking at these cards, and I'm really quite tempted by legions because they also increase my hand size, and again, that's just helping me get to my deck faster. I'm tempted by Emperor Trajan, whose scoring condition I'm holding them out the way. That was not very helpful. Whose scoring condition is also based on population. So maybe if I can switch into gaining population, which I might be need to looking at for certain regions to do. But I think what I'm actually landing on is Rome the Eternal City, which is an upgrade to the City of Rome, which is, it basically has the same effect, but I don't have to discard a card to fire it. And it's worth 4 points, which is quite a lot. And puts City of Rome into my history. So I'm thinking, okay, I can currently afford that, so that's just something I'm keeping in mind as I'm doing all of that. But I'm a little bit low on materials for all the Greeks raiding early on. So I might gain a material for development costs, because I do have a bunch of population. And then, because I don't think I'm looking at a lot of unrest at the moment, I'm going to discard bread and circuses to gain another material. For now. Alright, so I'm going to start by, I have a free play in hand, which is the Marvelous card. I keep on using, so I'm going to draw that. Reveal Elders. So this is, I've been using it earlier to get green cards, but a lot of green cards have the barbarian flags, and they're not as many now that I have access to the sort of the grey civilized cards. This is not as useful, so I might just put it into my history to get out of the way, because I've been playing it for a long time. So I'm happy with that. I have 3 actions left. Now what I might actually do is I'm going to use diplomacy. I'm going to spend, as my first action, spend 3 materials. I'm going to break through for tributaries. Now there aren't any actually in play, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to look through the main deck to try and find a tributary card. I don't get to look and choose. Instead, I reveal cards on the top until I find one. I get them in ones. So I get that. I get that to my hand. If I'd drawn more cards that weren't tributaries, I'd keep on drawing until I found one, and I'd shuffle the rest of the cards into the deck. Now, unfortunately, this card has a barbarian icon, so I'm not able to play it, but it's still going to be points for prosperity, so it's not completely useless. It's not ideally what I wanted to find, but that's sort of the risk when you break through from the deck, is you don't get a choice on what happens. That's not ideal, but it's still going to be worth something at the end of the game, as long as I have a little bit of progress. So I'm going to play Dalmatia, which is a region, gets me population, which is, I've just said, this is going to be useful. And I'm going to go ahead and garrison these Minoans, because they're not going to do them any good anyways. That keeps them out of the way. And then for my final action, I'm going to play another region, Forest. I have to exile a card. Well, this one's no good to me, so I might as well exile it to reveal it, see if this card's better. You see, this would have been a much better card for me to have. But there we go. And I may garrison a card. I'm going to garrison this prosperity, because again, I'm not really going that route. I have 1 card left now, my glory, which again, I'm trying to, I don't think I've done a great job of it, but I'm trying to get as much fame as possible, so I'm going to keep that and drop to my hand size, which is now 7. So I draw 6 cards from here. There's only 4. Now, because I'm reshuffling and I'm an empire, I now get to develop. So, again, I was tempted by Rome, as I said before, but I spent some of that material on my gamble. So I could spend progress, or I might go for a cheaper one now and get Rome later. Maybe if I get Emperor Trajan, I'll be able to get the Syrians. And it's a pretty cheap card, it only costs 2 materials and 1 population. And it's worth a very big number of points. I think I'll do that. Then that goes into my discard just like a nation card would, and then I reshuffle. One thing I haven't been doing is that every time you get either a nation card or a development card, you should put an exhaust token on it. That gets reset at the end of your turn. But that's only relevant if you're likely to go through your deck multiple times a turn. I haven't been doing that, which I'm not set up to do. If you were a Greek player, you might be, or if you slim down your deck a lot, but not quite my game state, so I have not been doing it. Yeah, as a general rule about both the action and the exhaust tokens is that they're there to be tools, but if you don't need to remember what's happening, then you can sort of leave them be. Right, I still need to place a token out. On one hand, I really don't want to make this card more valuable because the bot has been taking a lot of tributaries, so I don't want to give them free points. On the other hand, it's the leftmost card without a token on it, so if it plays any regions to exile cards, it will exile that card, which I really don't want to happen, so I'm going to gamble 1 point on putting it there. And the bot there goes 2. It's going to make it even more valuable if it doesn't take it. Moneylenders. Well, my decision's already been... No. Apologies. So it's going to... it's an Empire card, so it's going to acquire either a civilized card and uncivilized card. There's 2 in play. They're both worth 2 points. This is the other way around. That's silly of me. Because this is 1 point plus 1 point there. So it takes the leftmost one. So we'll take both those cards. Top of the deck. Again, reveal the placement. There. And then that gets discarded. Skip this card. Go on here. I believe this can be the same exact thing. So here this is worth 1 point, this is worth 2, so it's going to take this. Acquire these. These go into the discard pile. And we replace this, of course. Shadoof. That just goes back into the deck, or into the unrest pile. An attack card. As mentioned, it's going to take everything I possibly wanted, which is very tragic. Maybe replace it with another good card that I want. It's not awful considering I have 2 cities, but there we go. And I have to recall a card. That's not really what I wanted to happen. There we go. Okay. I'm thinking now that the decks these decks are running out. This deck's getting relatively low. We're both a little bit away into being Empire. I really just want to be rushing glory as much as I can. So I'm gonna keep my all of these. I'm gonna try and focus on pacing with these, and it's just gonna cost me 1 action to replace one of these, which I think I can live with. And otherwise I miss out on Solstice effects. So I'm going to recall this, which also recalls the card beneath. That's discarded. This gets a token. Let's see if we can grab one. There we go. It shuffles down. And we add 4 cards here. Okay, it's my Solstice effects. I have 2 cities, and I think very simply I'm just going to be discarding 2 cards, which it's a very easy decision because they're both barbarian icons, so they're not going to do me any good in hand anyways. And I said earlier about getting materials in order to buy development cards. But I'm thinking actually what I might do is just Legion's going to get me another passive to increase my hand size, and I'm scoring points for 2 different cards at the moment for having population, so I'm just going to take those 2 and just try and focus on that as much as possible. Right, so on my turn, Sorry, I just saw that I had Julius Caesar in hand. Now Julius Caesar is either I can use to draw cards, or I can use it to acquire tributary. Now tributaries are again really good, so I might just save until there's a tributary out in the market and get that. And I feel similarly about Emperor Trajan. I don't think there's any other cards that I particularly want there. Although urban development's pretty good. Question is how much to focus on one strategy and how much to do another. That's 4 resources for playing urban developments. Okay, maybe that's a lot of resource, and again, one of those resources, both of them are useful for getting developments, and one of them is good for scoring points at the moment for me. So I'm going to spend Emperor Trajan to acquire the urban development. Does get me the unrest card, which is unfortunate. And then he just goes into history. So he's done his thing. Just throw in a card. There you go. Maybe we reveal a tributary. No ideal. There we go. So I spent 1 action. I'll play urban development to gain 2 materials and 2 population. So that's pretty compelling reason to have that. And then I'm simply going to play Dalmatia to gain another population. So I'll switch that into a 5. Actually, I can just switch the 5 into a 10. There. My 3 actions are done. I'm deciding what to discard. Again, I want to keep Glory in hand because, again, that's going to be my focus next turn. I know I said that last turn, so apologies for that. Well, I should apologize to myself for being scatty in my strategy, but there we go. And very simply, I'm going to discard the rest of my hand in order to get those legions, I think. There we go. So I'm going to drop to my hand size of 7. 1, 2, 3. I get to now develop. I'm going to spend 3 population to gain legions. And I reshuffle this. Of course, 4 cards in hand, so I'll draw 3 more. Right, I have to spend 1 token on a card. I don't have strong feelings about any of these, so I'm just going to try and do something where it's not going to give the bots a lot of points. Some of these cards have stars, which means they're a variable number of points. The bot, however, only treats them as 5s, so I definitely don't want to be putting them on one of those cards. So I'm going to put it on the coast and leave it at that. Right, the bot goes. There. Unrest goes back to the pile. Unrest goes back to the pile. That's nice. It's always... This is a great turn. I like this turn a lot. And finally a port. And that card is very simply because it's a pin card going into the bot's history. So obviously the bot has done a lot for its deck, but I'm hoping that because it didn't have an impactful turn, otherwise that it's to my advantage. We refill, and I get to do my solstice effects. Cool. I'm looking at my hand of cards. I don't have the 3rd region I need for glory because I've just been forcing shuffling it, so I'm gonna make sure that I hit that as best I can by using my cities to draw more. So I'm gonna discard, put in circuses to draw a card. That's the region I need. I'm very happy about that. I'm gonna discard I have a lot of options in hand, which is sometimes when it can get to my brain. I'm going to discard diplomacy. I think just this is for resources. Again, the resource I really care about, I think, looking at my cards very quickly, it's going to be, I think I still want Rome. I think that's still going to be a solid card for me. So I'll get that third material I need for it. As a free play, before I do anything else, because I have Marvelous and it's a free play, I'm going to keep using that. To draw a top card, that's great. That's, again, it's useless to me because of the barbarian icon, so I'm going to put that into my history, which is nice, because it means it's not slowing down my deck anymore. So I still have 3 actions. The first action is going to be to play down Gallia Aquitania. Then I'm going to play Glory, abandoning all these cards. Look at the top 2 cards here. Because I'm Rome, I get to look at all 3. Choose the one I want. So Triumphant and Taurus we've seen before. Great. Is a free play that gains me a bonus action. And whenever you do it, you are allowed to put into your history. It's worth 6 points if it's in your history, but only 2 if it's still in play. So you wanna keep it in your deck, but you don't want to be caught out with it still in your deck at the end of the game. However, even in history, it's only half the point of Triumphant. Mr. Taurus lets me just stale progress, which is going to be every time I go through, play it for a free play, I'm going to basically be putting the points 2 in my favor, but it's not going to be worth many points in and of itself. So in order for it to be better than Triumphant, I need to expect to play it 6 more times this game. I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm going to... I think I'm just going to take Triumphant. It's solid points. Hopefully I can put it... I can't garrison it, but if I have a card that lets me put it into my history, that'd be great. And at least I have a high hand size, so I can draw through it a lot. Right. So I've taken 2 actions, and my final actions, very simply, is going to be to play Legions for the extra hand size. And I think at this stage, I'm tempted to use Julius Caesar, although it can gain a tributary. I don't know how many left and when it's going to show up. And when I play, I only get, once he's played, he's going to go into my history as well. So I'm tempted just to take the coast, partially just because it gains me 2 progress just for doing so. So I'm going to free play him to decide to acquire this, to gain that progress, my hand. If he goes into my history, it's out of the way. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just swapping this into 5, mostly because of clarity. I spent my 3 actions. I'm looking at the cards in hand if I want to keep any one of them. And I'm thinking, I think I want to keep Urban Development. It's such a good source of resources, and I'm getting to draw to hand size of 8 each turn now. So I'm going to discard those 2, draw up to 8. 2, 3, 4. So I now get to develop again. I've decided in advance this time that I'm going to get Rome the Eternal City. I've got in my discard, and this is shuffled. 5 cards, so I still get to draw 3 more because of my huge hand size bonus, which is just, it's getting through my deck quicker, obviously, but it's also meaning that I can be relatively confident getting the cards I want when I want them. And the eagle-eyed of you will have spotted that I've missed replacing the region over here, so I'll do that now. But it was after I'd taken all my actions, so there wasn't anything else I could have done with it. I have to place a token down. And I think once again, these are worth so many points to the bot already. You don't want to put it somewhere out of the way. The bot goes. Put it there. And we go. Right. So we look through the table and we simply get all the way other. So it's going to try and acquire tributary first. There aren't any to acquire. So it's going to acquire a civilized card, which also aren't any to acquire. It's then going to try and return unrest from the discard pile, which it can't do. So finally, having exhausted all the options, it's going to gain progress and go into history. So there. We'll draw the next card. Unrest goes back to the pile. A pin card that will simply go into its history, which is getting pretty thick right now. And then region, so that's going to discard the top card. It's going to be played, so that's 2. And you can see the Greeks don't care as much about regions, so there's not been a lot of that going on. And then finally it's going to exile a card, which is going to be the leftmost without a token. Maybe we reveal a tributary. Ooh, the Sumerians are a very good tributary because they let you return 2 unrest cards from anywhere before scoring. So they're just like, they're basically just proof against having unrest cards at the end of the game. And they're worth 3 points. So I'm starting to regret a little bit playing Julius Caesar when I did, but hopefully I can have another card that lets me gain a tributary soon. I'm racking my brain to remember if I have any. The answer to which is I have no clue. Right, so I'm looking at my hand cards, looking at my Solstice abilities, which are my cities, and quite unimpressed by my hand. But I'm going to go ahead and discard 2 cards with the cities that, again, I have these cards with barbarian symbols that I'm not going to be able to play. Notably, if I had conquer cards in my hand, because of my legions, I could still use them. But that's not these cards. And I won't remember, but I might have even put them into my history. So I'm going to discard both of those one at a time in order to... I'm looking at the actions going to take this turn. I only have 2 cards in hand that I really want to use, so I'm going to discard 1 card to draw a card. Okay, that's a region, that's better. So I'm going to go ahead and gain a population. Alright. So, I'm going to play urban development. That's just a big source of resources for me. So I gain 2 more population and 2 of these. And then, very simply, I'm just going to play 2 regions. One of them will get me one of these. The other one will force me to exile a card. Ooh. I say that, but there's only 1 card out of token, so I'd have to exile the Sumerians, which I do want. So maybe I don't do that. Is the short version of that, because I'm really keen on getting that card. It's really valuable. So what I might instead do is, as my third action, I'm going to play this Unrest and discard 2 other cards from hand in order to return it, because I wasn't going to use those cards anyways, so I'm going to discard those 2. Now my Marvelous card, which is a free play, which I'm going to do to look at the top card, which I think I want to keep there because I want to be, again, going for glory. If that's discarded, that's fine. I have 1 card left in hand, which I'll keep because, again, it's a region that I want for glory, which I, hoping to focus on entirely for the rest of the game. So I have drops in my hand size of 8. So I have 1 card in hand, so I draw 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So no development this round. I had 1 token. I don't really want to make the Sumerians more valuable, but I also don't want them to be exiled, so I'm going to put that there. Right. 4. There we go. Which is timely, because they were going to exile a card. So they discard a card, they put this card into play, and they exile a card if they can, but they all have tokens on them, so they can't. Philosophy, it's a Empire card, so they're going to acquire a green or a grey card. This is worth 6 points to them, so they're definitely going to take that. They do get the unrest as well. That gets discarded and replaced as well. Leadership. Nice. That's a card, probably a bit late in the game. Right. They discard another card, which is the unrest they just had. They play this card, and this time there's a card to exile, so they exile this card. Wasn't long for this world. Shrine, which is not going to be useful on account of its barbarian flags. Olympic Games, we go down all the way to other. There is a tribute to acquire, so we'll spend 3. It would spend population, it could, but instead spends progress. It acquires this, which is very tragic. I, in hindsight, would have wanted it to be exiled instead of acquired, but there we go. And this is replaced with a river. That's discarded. It has 1 token here. This gets shuffled down. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. And now it's my Solstice abilities. Okay. So I have Glory in hand. I have some regions. I also have Rome, the Eternal City, which I do want to get in place. So I probably won't end up playing Glory this round. But I do want to use my city still. And if I can trigger a reshuffle for all my regions go into my discard next round, that will speed things up. So I'll discard. I'll discard my forest to draw a card, which will let me develop. These are all pretty good. Some of them cost a bunch of materials. Yeah, thinking I'm going to take the Roman invasion because I can pay for it without spending my precious progress. 1, 2, 3. And it will help me slow down my opponent's deck a little bit. But hopefully, if a tributary does come up, I'll be able to acquire it now, which I'm not entirely sure right now if I have a card that can do. So I reshuffle this and draw a card. Like so. And discard Triumphant. I'm just going to use that to gain a material. The rest of my cards cost materials. And then I now get to, I've done my Solstice, so now I'm going to take my actions. The first one's going to play Rome the Eternal City. It's only playable if City of Rome is in play. And what I do is I replace it because this goes into play, this gets replaced. And it'll let me do my basically the same effect without the cost, which isn't too much of not a huge boon considering I have such a big hand size anyways. But it's still 4 points, so I'm quite happy with that anyways. Right, so I've taken 1 action, I have 2 left. I'm going to play Coast, which lets me draw a card. I have to exile a card from the market. There's only 1 option. It goes there. Not particularly helpful. And lets me garrison a card. Might as well keep these out of the way for a little while. And I'll play a little bit cramped on the size table I'm using. But there we go. I'm going to play Dalmatia over here. It does gain me a population. and I may garrison a card. I'll garrison this for now. I don't think it matters too much, but there we go. I'm actually just going to keep those cards because they're all working towards my glory engine, which is maybe a slightly strange phrase, but there we go. I draw 5 more cards, and I have to add going somewhere. Again, I'm thinking just wherever it doesn't really benefit the bot at this stage. I'm not looking at getting new cards unless a tributary comes up, and we roll for the box. 4. Glory, that's not great. So it abandons 3. It does the 3 most recent. Those go there, and it takes the top fame card goes there. This gets discarded. That's if I remember correctly, that's not gonna be too many points because we took the second marvelous card before it got that as well. So I'm at least happy that it's not getting huge points. Right, this is the card that I wanted, but it has, and now it's taunting me with it. It doesn't. There are no tributaries to acquire. There are no civilized cards to acquire. There's no. Well, let's check if there's any unrest. There is an unrest in its discard pile, so we'll return that. And this card goes into. So it's purely by chance having the same function that it's intended to. Okay, that's out of the way. Skip this card. Attack. So simply take the most valuable card in available to it, which is going to be this card because it counts as 5 for the bot. And if we're very lucky, it will reveal a tributary. Temple. Ooh. It's a very nice card. It's probably a little bit late in the day in terms of my benefit from it. But there we go. The second part of that is that I have to recall a card. And what I might just use that to do is get my Dalmatia back, because that means I can get another population from it. That's done. This gets a token. This shuffles down. And 1, 2, 3. As you can tell, the bot is cycling through its deck slower now. It's been buying lots of cards. And it's just, because it's just played Glory as well, it has more regions back in its deck. So, not feeling too outpaced by it at the moment, thanks to a bunch of my cards. Right, Solstice time. I get to discard up to 2 cards. Again, I can always just not do it, but I have a preponderance of cards, so I'm just going to go ahead and spend 2 cards to gain 2 population at this point. That's really what I'm concerned about for those endgame points. Marvelous is a free play, so I'm going to look, draw that top card, look at it, and that advance, because it has that symbol, is useless to me, so I'm happy to be able to put that into my history and be done with it. And I'm very happy that I chose that card in the game, because that's been doing a lot for my deck composition. Oh, I shouldn't have discarded 2 cards. I forgot. That's my bad, because I now have roamed the Eternal City, which doesn't require a card to fire. Apologies. Right. I think my plan is very simple here. I play Urban Development to get some resources. It's very nice. If I seen that card come up earlier, I might have considered getting more cities in order to make it even more valuable. There we go. I'm going to play Dalmatia to gain resource. I'm not going to worry about garrisoning something. I'm going to straight away. I'm going to use Glory. Get rid of all these cards. Look at the top. I look at top 3 cards, but there's only 1, so I just look and take that. and I get a progress from my passive ability on my power card. And now I have great, and it's a free play, so I can play it straight away to gain an action if I want, which is very exciting. I'm going to go ahead and use that free play to gain an action. So I can mark that just putting one card token back on my Empire card. I'm going to use that action in a second. And I can choose to put it in my history now or later. And I'm thinking the game could end relatively soon, as soon as that King of Kings is taken. So I'm going to put this straight in my history and make sure I get those full 6 points. And then I have one action left, and I'm just going to, again, focus on glory, put a card in garrison, and then I'm going to keep a region in hand, because I think I just want to go for glory next turn, if I'm able to. These cards go in there. An option of, now I'm going to draw, option developing. Senate's 3 points, that's pretty good. So I'm just going to, it doesn't cost me, I don't need materials for anything else. They're not going to be worth any points at the end of the game. So we'll do that. And then hopefully I can draw a region and a glory and force the game to end before the bot does too much else of concern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. And I have to put a token down. Again, I'm just putting on places where I think the bot's not going to go, because I don't want to fuel them points. 2. Put that there. Right, so a pin card, that just goes straight into history, which is, I'm glad, happening at this stage of the game, because it means not doing anything useful. Oracle, this discards a card, putting it into history. Well, I'm glad that all the times I've been annoyed at the bot so far for taking cards I want is now at least seeing some backlash. Now, this is both a fame and an attack card, but because attack is higher up in that priority list, it will do that first. So it takes a single most valuable card to it, which is this. Another 5 points to the bot, which is quite upsetting. But maybe it will reveal a tributary. It does reveal a tributary. The Egyptians, which is pretty exciting. And it's going to get it, if it doesn't steal it in a moment, it's going to put a progress on it as well. However, I need to recall a card. I think it's late enough in the day that I can recall one of my other pin cards. Well, I can look in my hand, in fact. I don't have my glory card. That's quite upsetting. I will take my legions back into hand. Here's the next card, glory. Luckily, it can't fire because I don't have enough regions. So instead, it gains 2 progress. It's not great either, but it's not as bad. I'm just going to do this. Right. This gets a token. This shuffles along. It's my Solstice time. I'm going to be discarding cards, hoping to draw my discard one for my city to draw a card, and go ahead and just draw one for Rome, the Eternal City. Still didn't manage to get my glory, so I'm just going to set up for that next turn, because I have enough card draw that I can assure that I get it. So what I'm going to do, well, I'm going to play Marvelous for, because it's a free play, get to look at that top card. Well, glory I definitely want to stay there, so I'll leave it 1 card away. It's a little bit frustrating, but there we go. So very simply, I'm going to play I make sure to gain a token, and I can garrison a card. Doesn't really make much difference at this stage. So I won't. I'm going to... A lot of options. I'm just thinking. So I'm looking at the Egyptians, and their effect isn't particularly useful because I'm going to get to develop soon anyways. And there was 1 point per Grey Civilized card, but I know I don't have that many in deck. I haven't been taking that many. So I'm wondering if there are better cards in the deck. So what I might do is, knowing that, you know, I'm going to go for glory next turn, is I might use urban development to gain 2 materials and 2 population. I'm really, really tempted to break, I have diplomacy in hand, which I think break through for a tributary. Really tempted to dig the deck for 1. However, that will stop me from getting my military engineering, which is 3 guaranteed points, and digging the deck is not as guaranteed. But maybe that's fine. However, taking the Egyptians does prevent the bot from gaining them. And for the bot, that's 6 points right there. So I think that swing is too dangerous to allow to happen. So I'm going to use diplomacy, spend the 3 in order to break through and take the Egyptians. Gets me a progress and this card. Revealing a new card. Guaranteed 3 points. Breakthrough for a region. Okay. Right, so I've used urban development, I've used diplomacy, and I've played Dalmatia. This is when there's enough going on in the game that you should really be using the action tokens, because forget yourself. So if I've now just not taken an action, then please shout your screens. But I'm gonna end my turn there, and all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure I have 1 region left in hand, so I can fire off my glory next turn, which I happen to know is the top card in my deck anyways. So it's gonna simply be my force that I'm keeping in hand. I don't think there's anything else that's useful. I'll keep the Senate in case there's a good Empire card, civilized card that matters. The rest of these cards will be discarded, and I'm going to draw up shortly. So I have 2 cards. I have hands. I have 7 now, so I draw 5. 1, 2, 3. I get to develop. I only have 1, and each when you spend progress for materials, you can use this 2, but it still costs me 2 progress in order to get this card worth 3 points. And it's late enough stage in the game that that's not a huge. I'm not going to gain its effect very much. So I think there's enough time in the game that I could develop it later, so I'm just going to leave it for now and just shuffle my deck. So I'm on 5 cards, I draw 2 more. We're in the end game now. Just about to hit the end game, rather. Right. I haven't placed the token anywhere. I'm definitely not going to make that tributary more valuable for the bot. So put it over here. And if you get to this stage in the game, there's lots of tokens out. It can be good to get one of these cards just to snag those points. That is not a bad shout for one of the final actions of the game. That goes there. We go unrest. That's nice. That's a pin card that's just going to go into history. Not too happy about it considering it's 5 points for the bot, but at least it's not doing anything else that's bad. It's going to take the most valuable card out here, which is currently this 3-point card. So I'm glad I didn't make it more valuable. Revealing the next card. That's unexciting. I need to return a card to hand. At this point, it's just going to be one of my hand size cards because we've gotten to that stage of the game where it's not going to matter anymore. So that can just go into my hand, I imagine. And then final card there, it's just going to go down to other. It's going to spend 2 resources to acquire. Nope, I can't do that either. So it's going to return unrest and discard. I can't do that either. So it's going to gain 1 and go into history. This gains another token. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it is my, well, rather, it's Solstice. Right. So regions and glory are going to be probably what I spend my entire turn doing anyways. So I'm probably just going to discard. Ooh, I have 1 action left of note. And keep Roman invasion to get a region, I think. Sorry, I'm just thinking to myself. So I'm just going to discard 2 cards. Well, I'll discard 1 card for the city to gain a resource, and then I'll gain a resource from Rome, the Eternal City. And that just means that I have close enough to get the military engineering soon. So I'm going to play, as my first action, I'm going to play Raisha. Gets me a resource, which is just what I need for military engineering. I'm going to play Glory. There. Now, because there's no cards in the Famed to look, I actually look and select the King of Kings. And this is an endgame trigger. And I completely forgot what it does. So my gaining resource there doesn't really matter. Because what happens is it triggers the game end. And then you gain one of these effects depending on the state you're in. I'm an Empire, so I gain 3 progress. So I'm just going to take a 10. And I develop for free. So I just simply get that card. That's the only development card I have. That's also a endgame trigger, so it's really in the game. And we flip this over. And then other players, if they get the King of Kings, will get to do this effect. Doesn't matter now. There's no way. Well, it's extremely unlikely they're going to go for glory now. But if other players weren't close, they could still get some effect from getting that. So when you trigger it in the game, you finish the current round and you play another whole round. So I have 1 action left this round, so I get to do this turn. And then I'm going to get another next turn, where I'm probably just going to try and hoover up as many points as I can. So I have 1 action left this turn, and very simply, I'm going to use Roman invasion to acquire a region, because that's going to get me, that's just 3 points in the bag. Goes in my hand rather, sorry. This gets replaced. Armenians. That's 3 points. That's me done. None of these cards are useful, so I'm going to discard all of them. Because at this point, the only thing I want is to gain resources that will help me with my scoring conditions, and potentially if there's gain any cards out there. I only draw 6 now because I've the Greek attack cards. I mean, I've slowly gotten rid of my pin cards. I have to add a token somewhere. This will be somewhere not worth many points. And the bot takes its penultimate turn. And it's going to go out with a bang and play 6 cards. Unrest goes away. Unrest goes away. Now, what does it do? It tries to acquire a tributary. It can by spending 3 population, which it will use progress to do. And gains that. placed. Jungle. That's done. Then this is a pin card, goes into history. And finally, a region, which will discard the top card of the bot deck. This goes into play and will exile a card, which is simply this card. Another city. And no tokens placed because I rolled a 6. Go here. And it's Solstice. And all I'm thinking about is this is my final go. I'm going to just try and, if there's any points I can gain, I'm going to try and scrape those in. I'm going to start by drawing a card of Rome, the Eternal City. Diplomacy can get me, if there's any tributaries left, that's going to get me a tributary. So that's probably a strong shout. Urban development gets me more population. So those are some good shouts. Minoans can't be played, so that's no good to me. So I'm going to discard another card, hoping that for city, that is, hoping I can draw something that lets me somehow snuffle up some more points before the end of the game. I think I've done pretty well here. I've done a lot of glory and fame collecting, so I feel like I should be in a good position. And I think the Greeks were very scary early in the game, but I think I managed to keep ahead of them in the second half. Triumphant is a useless card, so that's not so good. So I'm going to start with playing Diplomacy. That's going to cost, I'm going to spend 3 to break through for a tributary. So I'm simply going to reveal cards here until I reveal a tributary. There we go. So I get Axamites. These get shuffled in. This is a variable number of points, but I have a few tributaries, so I'm not too disappointed by that. Urban development, again, I'm getting points for my having population, so I'm quite happily going to replay that to get another 2 of each. 1, 2, 1, 2. And I have 1 action left, my final action of the game. That's unlikely to... I don't think I have anything that will matter. I'm going to play Axamites. It gets me 4 resources, 4 materials. That probably doesn't matter, but it's possible that I have a card that scores for materials in my deck that I've forgotten about. And it's the best I have. So I'm going to end my turn. I don't have to go through the normal sequence because it won't affect anything. But just for completeness, I'm going to discard, draw 6. I won't get to do anything with these anyways. It doesn't matter because I will get a final solstice, so discarding one of them makes a difference. And I place a token down, and once again, I'm just going to put it somewhere where I think it's not going to land the bot to make points. This makes it net 0, so that seems fine by me. And the bot takes its final to go. It's going to again do 5 actions. Armenians, so it's going to can't get a tributary, can't get a civilized card. It can return an unrest though, so it does that. Games, again, it's going to be the exact same thing. Does it have any more unrest in its discard pile? It doesn't. So it's going to gain a progress and go into history. It's out of the way. A region, nothing to exile, but I will discard a card. I'm going to play. Exactly the same thing. I'll discard a card, go into play, nothing to exile. And finally, if able, it'll acquire a green or a gray card. So this is worth 2, this is worth 2, this is worth 3. Takes this. This goes there. And this is revealed, not that it matters. And very finally, we still finish up this because it very nicely managed to snag those 3 points. Doesn't really matter that we do this, but for completeness sake, I get to do a final solstice. I won't get to play these cards, but I can use both Rome and city in order to gain population. Right, I finished the game, so I get to score. And one thing that's important is that some cards with variable or conditional scoring will matter what location it's in. So it's just worth having a look at that as you're going through and being careful. I know I'm going to leave these 3 cards out for now. Just like remember that they were in play. Because I think it mattered for the... You can see here on the... I'm going to show here. This will score me 1 point per every 3 pinned cards in play at the end of the game, but not including regions, which none of these are regions. So that's going to be 1 point right there. So I'm going through the rest of my hand, deck, and discard are all the same for intents and purposes. So I'm going to sort these by type. And basically there's 3 types of scoring. There's cards that have a set value, that have the star, which means it's going to be a value like a based on basically some sort of formula, or finally it might have a question mark, where it means it's conditional on a certain condition, and we'll have 1 or 2 conditions. A whole bunch of these aren't worth points, and you're now all going to be riveted to see me do some math, and hopefully not get it too wrong. All right, those are all my deck. Discard, those are up there. I'm just going to look through my history. I'm going to put them separately just to make sure if there's anything that's conditional or important there. Cool. All right, well, I'm just going to do the math, and if I get it wrong, I'll put a note or something at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my power card Romans. I get 1 point for every 4 population I have. I have 10, 18, so that's going to be 4 points for 16. 5, 6, 6 points there. I get 1 point for every 3 at 18. So that's 6. So I'm on 12, 15. We already established for that kin I get 1, so that's 17, 18, 22. I'll do the numbers first. 23, 43, 47. This is the content you want, I know. 54, 60. And then I get 2 points for every city or metropolis. I have 3 of them. I just remember that. I have my city, I have my Rome, the Eternal City, and the City of Rome. And I've obviously completely forgotten the points I was on. So that's 6 points there. 1 point for every... I have 96 points altogether. Scoring for all of my cards that have individual points. All my cards with stars will get a variable number of points. And then finally, my great card scores 6 points because it was in my history at the end of the game. Plus, I get points for all my progress, 1 point each. But I don't score anything for the individual resources themselves other than the conditional points from there. Now, looking at the bot player, it's much simpler because you don't need to do any of the advanced math. You simply take all their cards except the ones in their Dynasty deck. And you're simply going to... Every star is going to be worth 5 points. Every question mark is supposed to be the higher value of points. And every number is going to be that. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20, 21, 25, 27. That's just 5, so that's 32, 37, 42, 45, 48, 50, 57, 59, 64, 67, 70, plus all of this, which is another, that's 80, 83. So I beat it 96 to 83, if my math wasn't wrong, which I wouldn't be surprised if it was. As I was reviewing the video footage from the playthrough, I realized that I screwed up a few things when I did scoring. Plus, watching me add up a whole bunch of cards wasn't that interesting, so I thought I'd just give you a brief overview of how scoring works, instead. And basically what happens at the end of the game is you're going to add up the value of all your cards. And that means everything in your deck, discard, and hand, your play area, even cards that are garrisoned, and very importantly, cards in your history. And while not every card will score you points, many of them will. And there's 3 types of cards that you might have that score you points. Many will just have a straight up value. You just add up, very simple. Some will have a conditional value, which means that they'll score you different amounts depending on the situation. So for example, in that game, I got the Great Fame card. Now that card scored me 6 points because I had it in my history at the end of the game. However, had it been in my deck or my play area or anywhere else, it would have only scored me 2 points. And finally, a lot of cards are what we call star cards, which means they score a variable number of points depending on other factors. So it might be you score points for a certain type of resource or a certain suit of other cards that you have in your deck. And each one of those will score individually to a maximum of 10 points each. On top of that, each progress that you have at the end of the game scores you 1 point each. And that's everything you need to do for scoring. It's slightly different in the solo game because the bot has some slightly different rules. Now, it still scores the value on the cards. It still scores 1 point for each progress token. But instead of having to work out what those star and conditional scoring cards do, very simply, every star card is worth 5 points for the bots, regardless of what the text says. And every conditional card scores the highest possible value on that condition card. In addition, the bot will score 1 point for every 10 materials or population or combination thereof, whereas as a player, you don't score anything for those resources at the end of the game other than through other star cards. Now, in the game you just watched, I, as the Romans, scored 96 points. The bots only scraped 95, so I very narrowly beat the bot on medium difficulty. If you're finding that in your plays that you're beating it much better than I am, because you're better playing games perhaps, you can definitely up the difficulty. If you're finding it too challenging, you can make it easy. There are 5 difficulty settings in the game, so hopefully you'll find a solo opponent that offers the right amount of challenge. And because there is, across the 2 boxes, 16 different solo opponents, there's lots of different challenges to go for. I hope you've enjoyed that video and you've gotten a little bit of insight into how the solo game plays. And I hope you have a lovely weekend.